For centuries, the pyramids of Egypt have stood as silent giants, their purpose remaining mysterious. Were they tombs? Maybe ancient temples, or something else entirely? Each was elevated to a height of more than 350 feet above the ground, carefully and precisely placed in position. The debate has raged for generations, but today, thanks to Grok AI, the case has taken a shocking turn. After sifting through mountains of archaeological data, satellite scans, and hidden chamber readings, Grok connected the dots in a way no human ever has. What surfaced as a result is truly unsettling. Disturbing truths are buried deeper than we ever imagined possible. The Pyramid of Khufu consists of 3 rooms: the so-called underground chamber, the so-called Queen's Chamber, and the so-called King's Chamber. Today, we're diving deep into what Grok AI has revealed about the true purpose of the pyramids and why it changes everything we thought we knew about ancient Egypt, and not in a good way. The awakening of AI technology. When Grok AI first turned its attention toward the pyramids, it wasn't just crunching numbers in isolation. It was stepping into a conversation that had been raging for thousands of years, a mystery layered with half-truths, myths, and scattered fragments of evidence. Humans have always been fascinated by these monuments. Herodotus filled his writings with wild stories about their construction. Napoleon's scientists tried to decode their measurements, and modern archaeologists have spent lifetimes crawling through their narrow corridors with torches and measuring tape. Each generation left behind a trail of theories, some imaginative, others grounded in careful research. But what Grok AI did was fundamentally different. Instead of approaching the pyramids with a singular lens, be it history, archaeology, or astronomy, Grok pulled in data from everywhere. Geological surveys, cosmic ray scans, 3D mapping projects, ancient hieroglyphic translations, chemical analyses of stone samples, even fringe academic work sitting unnoticed in digital archives. It absorbed all possible information without bias, where humans tend to get stuck defending one theory over another. Grok was immune to ego. It didn't care whether the pyramids fit neatly into the tomb category or hinted at something stranger. It only cared about consistency, patterns, and the gaps where explanations didn't line up. And those gaps were glaring. From the astonishing precision of the pyramid's alignment with true north to the strange emptiness of its supposed burial chambers to the unexplainable scale of its construction, it was as though the traditional narrative had been stitched together with tape, held in place because no one dared to pull at the loose threads. But Grok pulled at them anyway. The result wasn't an immediate revelation, but an unfolding, a peeling away of layers in a puzzle. It saw that the traditional narrative, pyramids as grand royal tombs, wasn't just simplistic, it was deeply inconsistent. And in that inconsistency, a much darker and more complex picture began to take shape. Cracks in the tomb story. For decades, the tomb theory has been repeated so often that it almost feels unquestionable. Schoolbooks present it as fact. Documentaries dramatize the idea of hidden treasures sealed inside chambers. Tourism brochures sell the pyramids as monuments to pharaohs seeking eternal life. Yet when you examine the evidence closely, it doesn't hold together as neatly as we've been led to believe. Grok noticed this immediately. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, supposedly the grandest royal tomb of them all, doesn't actually contain a single trace of a pharaoh. The sarcophagus in the king's chamber is bare, scratched, and oversized to the point that it couldn't even fit through the passageways, meaning it had to be placed during construction. But there's no mummy, no ornate carvings, no burial treasure, and no hieroglyphs of triumph filling the space. Compare this with smaller tombs across Egypt, which are overflowing with inscriptions, religious texts, and depictions of the deceased's journey into the afterlife. Why would the most ambitious burial project of all be the least decorated and the most sterile? Then comes the problem of scale and logistics. If the pyramid was purely a burial chamber, why was it constructed with such baffling precision? Its 4 sides are aligned to the cardinal directions with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees. The base is almost perfectly level across a span the size of multiple football fields. To place each of its 2.3 million blocks, Workers would have needed to set one every 2 minutes for over 20 years straight. This level of engineering sophistication far exceeds what was required for the purpose of burial alone. Grok flagged another inconsistency. If these pyramids were tombs, why are there no clear mummies in the biggest ones? Nearly every pyramid of the Old Kingdom shows the same strange pattern: empty chambers, sealed passages, and missing remains. Over time, archaeologists brushed this off as the result of looting. But Grok raised the uncomfortable question: what if they were never tombs to begin with? What if tomb was a convenient story, one that hid a much stranger purpose in plain sight? Death and divinity. To understand why the tomb theory clung so tightly for centuries, Grok turned its attention to the mindset of the people who built them. The ancient Egyptians were obsessed with death not in a morbid sense, but as a transition. To them, dying wasn't the end, it was a crossing into another realm where life continued, but only if proper rituals were observed. Their entire culture revolved around preparing for this transition, and pharaohs believed to be semi-divine demanded the most elaborate arrangements of all. This worldview explains why pyramids were initially tied to burial practices. Smaller pyramids that came later often contained hieroglyphic inscriptions known as pyramid texts. These weren't mere decorations. They were detailed guides, spells, and rituals intended to help the pharaoh's soul ascend to the heavens. Temples connected to the pyramids hosted ongoing rituals to honor the dead and reaffirm their supposed divine connection. Even the choice of building on the west bank of the Nile carried symbolic weight. The west represented death, as the sun set in that direction every evening. So from one perspective, the pyramids being tombs fits. It resonates with Egyptian religious logic. Yet Grok spotted a deeper pattern. Religious symbolism can act as camouflage. A ruler might present a structure as a funerary monument, something the public and priesthood could accept, while secretly embedding functions that served entirely different purposes. Power in ancient Egypt wasn't just about ruling through armies and laws, it was about crafting an aura of divinity that bound people's loyalty through belief. Seen this way, the tomb narrative could be a kind of surface story. Yes, pyramids may have played a role in funerary rituals, but that may not have been their primary function. The rituals and hieroglyphs could simply be layers of cultural wrapping, hiding the true purpose beneath. By peeling back these layers, Grok suggested we may finally catch a glimpse into the mechanics behind the myth. And nowhere was this more apparent than in the strange hidden spaces sealed deep within the pyramids themselves.